I condemned them as corrupt because we knew they were going to put in those tax breaks. We just didn't know how they were going to do it. We were amazed. Now, we were stunned because they deceived us. And I knew they were deceiving us. I just didn't know how they were going to follow up with it. I wasn't expecting them to follow up like that. Peace. In the name of Allah, I'm Aubrey Muhammad. I pray that everyone is well. Hempstead family, friends, and believers, welcome to my live session. Y'all, you have to pardon the wind out here. It is more windy out here than Wendy Williams. So it is what it is. I had to have the Nassau Coliseum as my backdrop. I pray that your Saturday is well. It's beautiful out here. That orange sky is gone. Wednesday, we had an orange sky. Tuesday, it started coming, that smoke from Canada, or wherever that was from, and it filled up the sky so bad. Wednesday, right behind me, you couldn't see nothing. It was like a different planet. A couple of hours before this time, like 2 o'clock. Wow. And now it cleared up yesterday, and it looked like it cleared up a little more today, but it's still a slight haze. I still see the Hofstra Towers over there. It's a little hazy. It's cloudy out, beautiful out. That's why I came out, to make sure that all that smog went away, that smoke. It was vicious. But that's the chastisement of Allah on America. You keep doing evil and wicked and you don't tone, Allah himself got to come at you with the fire. Remember the fire next time, James Baldwin? All right. I'm here in regards to the Sands Casino. As you know, I'm here at Nassau Coliseum, and Sands Casino, Las Vegas, is planning a major displacement plan, $5 billion, on this 72-acre lot that is now Nassau Coliseum. To understand the scope of 72 acres, think about the Hempstead parking lots that were stolen by the developers, Don Monte. 32 acres were gifted to Don Monte, right? For the gentrification of Hempstead, it's half the size of this footprint. And they gave them away. Wayne Hall gave those parking lots away, 32 acres. Valuable land worth $200 million. The current market price of those 32 acres is $200 million. And Wayne Hall gave that away. Imagine it's 72 acres. It's a 99-year lease on this building. And it's very windy today, but I got on the lav mic, so I'll turn the camera around, the phone around, so you can see the scope of this land, the footprint. Now, the Coliseum is behind me, about 100 yards behind me. It's about 100 yards the other way, about half the size of the parking lot in the back. I'm going to spin the camera around, give you a perspective of where I'm at. I'm right here in the parking lot, with Starbucks over there. You just saw Hofstra to the side. I'm coming around to the RXR building, and that's the gentrifiers of Hempstead. Out of that silver old EAB building there, that's RXR. That's Scott Reckner, and he's a wrecker. Wrecking black people, wrecking black generational wealth. Oligarchs, Russian oligarchs, doing it. Now, you saw the scope of this parking lot, and it's more in the back. There's 72 acres. Sands Casino is buying the lease from Nassau Coliseum, a 99-year lease. Now, they came to the Nassau County legislator to negotiate this lease to get it passed, but they transfer the lease to them. And the Sands came up with all type of circusry, all type of pageantry, all type of ceremonies and gifts and bells and whistles. Oh, it's a big deal. It's a $5 billion project. And it won't cost the taxpayers anything, but it will produce $200 million in annual tax revenue. And it won't cost the taxpayers nothing. So they souped up their supporters, the NAACP, all these other sellout organizations.
We recommend that this body of legislators recommend to the next level and approve this, this transition and this proposal.
Whole bunch of Caribbean organizations, unions was lying, and local bloodsuckers who take the money out of Hempstead, these temporary construction jobs, they were supporting it. So everybody was saying, oh, such a good deal, it's a sweet deal. All of those legislators, most of them, at that legislative meeting, most of them said the same key word as if they were in a secret council before the meeting discussing it. Because they all said in their comments in supporting it, and the sight of the opposition that we were in that audience, they all said it's a no-brainer. About 10 of them said the same term. They all said, you know, this is a no-brainer. The lease is sitting there, it's stagnant. Now you see the next logo back there, and they have events there, so it's not stagnant. It was devitalized, it was sabotaged, it was undermined. Nobody would do the contracts. Why would they do a contract where they're trying to transfer it? So that's developer setup. Now, all of those groups, the Sands Corporation, they had a circus with them. They filled up half of the Nassau County legislative body. In the audience, we filled up the other half, those of us who said no to the casino. They were saying, say yes to Sands. They had green signs, we had red and white signs. They lied. Sands said, this is not going to cost anybody anything, and we knew it was a scheme. We knew it was wrong. We knew they were lying. You know, you got it. You cannot do buildings like this without those blood-sucking tax pilots. Those tax breaks and pilots are paid by homeowners. From all these middle-class Uniondale homeowners, East Garden City, the hamlet that they have redesignated, all the small homeowners, and this Uniondale, especially Uniondale, and Garden City, Hempstead is devastated, devitalized. There's nothing left there. They have robbed us of all our homes. But Uniondale, you're going to lose all your homes. You're going to be paying the taxes for this. That's what tax breaks polish does. Property taxes and school taxpayers foot the bill for these billionaires. Sands have lost all of their lost all their business overseas. They left America. They abandoned America and went over to Asia. Sands Casino, Las Vegas. Went all around the world, to Asia, to new markets, where they could pay workers cheaper, thinking they're going to get more money. It didn't work. They're coming back here. So they came in front of this legislative body, and they gave all those legislators sweet deals. One voted against it. It was 17-1. Gavon Abrams and a few other abstained from it because of conflict of interest. Ain't that a bitch?
This is a once-in-a-generation chance to partner with an entity that wants to invest billions of dollars without a cent of public monies.
These 10 of them, at least it was 10 of them, they said, you know, I'm voting for this because it's a no-brainer.
This is a no-brainer. Okay, I don't have any mental reservation, no hesitation. Without a doubt, this is good for Nassau County.
You know, they all said that. And one woman, I forgot her name, she voted against it. She said she don't want her children working in a casino.
I cannot vote for a casino.
Well, after Sands and their supporters and their colluded, this should be taken up legally. This should be dismissed and thrown out of court because of this deception. They had secret counsel. We need to know those communications. What offers did you make to them? What was the discussion? Because you all said the same thing. That's not coincidence. Sands, through this purposely was deceiving Nassau County residents. They said it wouldn't cost you anything. They make it a sweet deal before the legislature. They all voted for it.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, passes by a vote of 17-1.
That was May 21st, I believe it was. I was present. Sands came in, and I said that the Sands, I opposed it, I condemned it, and I said it is immoral. I said you're bringing about more crime, hopeless gambling, and it's a higher scale. It's not just the Sands Casino. That's just the money cash cow. It's a luxury resort, a celebrity chef restaurant, in-house apartments. They're going to put apartments in there. Subsidized luxury apartments that they are doing in Hempstead also. It's all part of the same plan By those bastards right there in that silver building I showed you, RXR. Scott Rector. And Don Monte, I believe, is on his deathbed. Or the ghost of Don Monte is still working with them. Because this thing is so high end, it's ridiculous. And the unions and the other construction workers have just been promised temporary jobs. All of those jobs, those opportunities are just like every other luxury, gentrifying, displacing, overtaxed project developers do, especially in black neighborhoods. They're temporary construction jobs. You build a project, and then when the project is constructed, you're nowhere in sight. You get no jobs. You get no careers. Temporary construction jobs. It happened at Metro 303. They built it, and our people ain't living in there. You got short-term construction jobs. Good for you. You got the training. Got everybody their little temporary jobs. And now maybe like 3 of our, not even that. I know a person that lives there, and another person I met being evicted while my mother was in landlord-tenant court. My mom's went to landlord-tenant court and is being evicted from the Avalon Westbury. It's all part of the same plan. It's displacement. They're doing it to a lot of people. The pandemic, losing your house, losing your apartment, you couldn't pay your rent, got laid off. It's a big housing swipe. It is a class war. They're making a smaller, rich class with more concentrated wealth, a shrunken middle class, a zombie class, a cyborg class in between that, and at the bottom is the poor, a big-ass poor class. And you know why you poor and you're going to be going through this? Because you trust the rich people. You trust these people. It was a circus. And I said, it isn't family-orientated. It's immoral. Once you get the casino in there, we already having problems. And they admit it. And their solution to it was, oh, don't worry about it. We're going to have 200 security personnel. This is a $5 billion project. Resorts, convention center, and luxury apartments in there. Yes, that you won't be enjoying. So I said, you admit that 200 security officers they're going to hire, and they're going to pay Nassau County Police. They aren't paying Nassau County Police. Yeah, the police, the extra police patrols around it. They're not paying. They're going to get tax breaks. The public is paying for it. It's all a sick game. And I said, you're making a police state for this casino. Do you know why? Because you know the type of crime it attracts. You know the type of people it attracts. And it's corrupt. And at that legislative body, I condemned the New York Lotto. New York Lotto revenue was supposed to have been for education. It was supposed to lower your school tax. Right. I said, New York State Lotto gimmick is, oh, you know, this revenue will help the school taxes. Education, we're doing a good thing. We're taking your sin, your hopelessness, your pot luck, your broken state, your superstition, and it's going to go towards school. Much of that revenue goes towards lotto officials, lotto administration. It doesn't even get to school funding. Do you know why? Because that's why your school tax is still high. And I condemned it. I condemned them and the legislative body as corrupt at that moment. I condemned them as corrupt because we knew they were going to put in those tax breaks. We just didn't know how they were going to do it. We were amazed. Now, we were stunned because they deceived us. And I knew they were deceiving us. I just didn't know how they were going to follow up with it. I wasn't expecting them to follow up like that. I was expecting at least somehow to be held hostage to tax breaks. So I said, it's immoral that you're attracting these type of people. I said, look at them dingy-ass OTBs. When the last time have you, this is hopeless people. Who was the clientele of OTBs, off-track betting? That's a racetrack. That's the same thing. That, remember Hazel Dukes, who was a part of the corrupt NAACP, or she was over the corrupt OTB? It was a mess. You know why you don't walk into those OTB offices? Suppose you got to use the bathroom. You traveling? It's dingy as hell in there. Because of the poor condition. They attract hopeless people, broken people. Most addicted gamblers are superstitious. Oh, and they just keep on betting. It's superstition. Instead of you addressing that, you just sit up there and provide police, and you don't. They don't correct them. They have nothing for them. Gamblers, they give you a phone number to call. If you gamble too much, here's the phone number. Call the phone number. That's the most bullshit I've ever heard. Calling the number for compulsive gambling. And I said, look at the that clientele you're going to attract. And look at Jake 58. Jake 58 has problems. Every weekend, y'all go over to Dave and Buster's right now. Tonight, the Nassau County Police will be showing up at Dave and Buster's. Dave and Buster's is supposed to be family oriented. Dave and Buster's is not a casino. It's supposed to be family oriented fun. They sell drinks in there. Now, do they let children in there? I think I've seen young people going in there. I think they're young teenagers. I'm not sure. I don't know if children go in there. They have video games and all these different events at Dave and Buster's. But every weekend, Nassau County Police is called there because they fight. And that's family entertainment. This is a low life. I said Sands Corporation, they're the ones that founded Las Vegas. The Sands Casino, that was financed in Las Vegas. That was like the seed of casinos in Las Vegas. That was the Teamsters. That's the mob that started in Las Vegas. Jimmy Hoffa. He took the Teamsters pension fund and put that money up for the Sands. And they've been corrupt ever since, destroying lives. They broke it down to a science. So eventually it became Disneyland, then Atlantic City. And now with this pandemic and inflation, people are not gambling. So they put the gambling in here with the resorts. They want to make this a vast resort. But it's immoral. And you're drinking, and it's going to be way too many problems. And then they said the solution is, we have these 200-man security force, and we'll be contracting, paying for taxpayer paying, that we claim as private Sands money, but it's going to be tax breaks and pilot money that they're paying Nassau County Police to patrol the outskirts. Well, the problems is not going to be in the casino. Crime in Las Vegas and Atlantic City don't happen in the casino. Where the crime? When you leave, outside the neighborhoods. People, the homes around here, coming out to the parking lot. When they leave, that attracts that grimy crowd everywhere. That's done. And they want to bring that in. That's a lowlife. But they lied about they weren't going to have to charge taxpayers. And they did. It was terrible. And they pulled that off. And then 2 weeks later, Sands Casino, Las Vegas, that wants to build a $5 billion project here in Nassau County, applied at the IDA for tax breaks and pilots. And they applied for it 2 weeks ago. And now we haven't heard anything from those 17 legislators that voted for this. They have to be contacted and told they have to rescind it. And Sands should be charged. If we came in front of a legislative meeting like that and lied, what would they do to us? The press would tear us apart. Nassau Newsday and News 12 defend them. Newsday and News 12 are nothing but racist, oligarch, plutocrat, corporatist control. They're corporate media. Everything against poor people. They demonize poor people. They criminalize poor people, and they show us in a bad light, especially Hempstead. And they do it acting like they're fair. They're corporate talking heads. We haven't heard a peep out of Newsday and News 12. And they all were promoting. So now they have to go for the gaming license. And then they have to go in front of that IDA board, and we all better show up there. All of us need to show up at the IDA board, And there's going to be a sneaky meeting. They're going to try to do it last minute. So we got to keep our heads up. And there are groups in Garden City and Uniondale that are actively opposing this. And we need to stay in touch with them, because this needs to go. This is a middle-class killer. This is why they lied. They deceived. They hid those pilots because they knew how devastating they are. You know what I'm saying? They knew how to your homeowner, when you got another bill coming, that's a surprise. That's called sticker shock. When you buy something and you ain't expecting the expense. And it's going to get worse in Hempstead. they put in 35 more pilots in Hempstead. Thousands of Hempstead homeowners have lost their homes the last 2 decades, paying the property taxes of wealthy outside apartment owners. And that's all about class. And they're getting away with it. And and the sad part is you give up. You're broken people. Most of you just broke. You're laborers and consumers. You labor, you pay your bills, you go to parties on Friday and Saturday, your church Sunday, you're back to the same bullshit Monday. Thousands have lost their homes. We don't hear peeps out of it. It's only like maybe a dozen who've actually spoken up. Maybe a dozen. Don Ryan opposed those pilots. So did Dorothy Gooseby. Just the pilots. But their mistake was they didn't condemn the project. That those pilots are the undercurrent for. They're class and they're displacing. Thousands have been displaced. And you don't care, you just move. Looking for another opportunity. When they move you down south, attracting you by the lower cost of living, then eventually they raise the cost of living through taxation. This taxation right here. This is the model. But I mainly figured it out. Most of my message, most of my spirit, all this is not for Black Hempstead. It's, it's to be an example, to show other Black areas who are conscious. Look, don't let this happen to you. Because it happened in Harlem. It happened in Brooklyn. I watched it happen in Harlem. They started in the 90s. The New Yorker magazine did the front page. And Brother Percy, I think, was on the inside of the New Yorker magazine. It did a cover story on the gentrification of Harlem right before Bill Clinton came in, and it was called The Changing Face of Harlem. And if you go Google that story, it should be archived. In the mid-90s, I think it was, about 95, 94. That story is called The Changing Face of Harlem. And it featured a picture of our good brother Percy. May Allah be pleased with him. Soldiering, he has on the Stetson hat and the black leather trench coat, and it's a picture of him on 125th Street, soldiering final call. That was our brother Percy. May Allah be pleased with him. And that story detailed how they were gentrifying Harlem. Nobody stood. Percy Sutton, David Dinkins before him just gave it away. What's his name? Charles Rangel, none of them. Adam Clayton Powell III, none of them defended our people. Just now, it's our public officials working against us. It's that whole Hempstead board. Kevin Boone supported that Sands, the lease transfer. It's a 99-year lease transfer. Incredible. And they may even ask for a 99-year pilot in tax breaks. Breaking the middle class, taking your homes, and you don't care. Garden City cared. Garden City felt the threat. Garden City ain't no way. Hofstra University opposed it, and I think they still have a lawsuit. Nassau Community College, which I just drove through, and some slow-ass security car was in front of me. I had to almost call them driving Miss Daisy. I was on my way over here. I cut through Nassau Community College to come here. And Nassau Community College supports this. Hofstra doesn't. Hofstra is actually putting forth a lawsuit. The mayor of Garden City doesn't. The mayor of Hempstead should have opposed it, but he's a coward. And at the last Village Hall meeting, I brought this up to him.
Peace in the name of Allah. I'm Aubrey Muhammad. I pray that everyone is well. This is in regards to Sands Casino that's planned for the Uniondale Hub. It is disturbing that one of your trustees spoke of the deceptive Sands Casino at the legislative meeting last month. He spoke in favor and support of a deceptive organization. He claimed to speak for himself.
And I did.
We understand that that is as legitimate as Sands lying at that same legislative meeting, praising they would not seek pilots and tax breaks. 2 weeks ago, tax breaks and pilots. I spoke in opposition to it because it is immoral. And that's the way developers are, corporations. They're just Decepticons. You hit a button, they whack that back into something else, claiming to be good. And I think you should condemn his support of that massive deception. They brought out the carnival, they brought out the fanfare, they brought out all the supporting organizations, the NAACP, amongst others. The former Lieutenant Governor, David Patterson, sat in that meeting while that Sands took up the whole side of the legislative audience and built up this carnival atmosphere that's not going to cost you anything. It's not going to cost you a dime. Don't worry about it. It's going to be all beneficial to you. And they would handle the immoralness through a police state with all the extra police and security. That is absurd. That is immoral and misdevelopment as much as this master development agreement. And to Reginald Benjamin, your construction jobs are only temporarily. Once they start with commonplace or so-called affordable housing, they're doing tricks and trades now. That was purchased land, that was gifted land, sold to them. That should be taken back. Commonplace is one affordable housing apartment complex amongst 16 more planned luxury that will be far out of reach. And the clientele, the tenants there will be very at home at a Sands casino complex with celebrity chef restaurants and all higher end amenities, all subsidized by a dying middle class who the oligarchs and plutocrats and corporatists you keep gatekeeping for. Stop this misdevelopment.
Thank you. Your time is up. So I will never condemn any trustee for their opinion. This is a democracy. Each individual has the right to stand on what they believe. This is not a dictatorship as much as you claim it is, because it's funny how when the trustee agrees with me, it's a dictatorship. But when they stand on their own, I'm supposed to condemn them? Nonsense. He has a right, and every trustee have a right to stand on their own opinion. Secondly, listen, I let you speak? Okay.
He claimed to speak for himself.
And I did.
Secondly, when we talk about the downtown development, and you know, you're on the same page of confusion, where you cry that we need to do something to keep our residents in the village of Hempstead. Let's not gentrify Hempstead. We propose affordable apartment building, and Miss Gary, you talk about following your good friend master says that we should not build affordable or low income in Hempstead. Send it to Garden City.
That's right.
So yes, I'm confused.
I agree with that.
So so you don't want us to put market rate, and you don't want us to put low income. You don't want us to do nothing, and that's your plan, and it's not going to happen that way.
Revitalization.
I said your trustee Kevin Boone made a statement in support of this monstrosity, the Sands Casino, and I said he said that it was his own views. And I told him that that's about as legitimate as the Sands saying this wouldn't cost taxpayers anything. I said, we know that he represents you. All four of them board members, Waylon Hobbs, are stooges to you. None of them have an open mind. But like a solid 8 months after you became mayor, they didn't repeat one word. You hardly heard a word out of it. Just Waylon Hobbs would speak, because he's a tyrant. You know, one of them bully tyrants that just, I don't know, he got scarred emotionally as a child. I don't know what happened. He's got one of them complexes, and he take it out on everybody around him. Obviously, another black person did something to him, because he don't take it out on white people. Except for Miss Catherine Gary, a white woman who defends black people. He attacks her especially well, because she has scathing reports on him. He attacks her because she supports black people, but he wouldn't dare protect these Caucasians. Kevin Boone and Trustee Tariana Griffin was slated to speak. She must have submitted the paperwork because she never spoke. But Kevin Boone did, and he supported. And I told Mayor Waylon Hobbs to condemn Kevin Boone's statement, and he didn't. And he tried to fake it off. Oh, he has his own mind. He speaks his own mind. He called me a slave. He said, oh, you a Jewish slave to Catherine Gary. That was absurd. You know, he always he's projecting. That's what slaves do, you know, when they insecure and they're not strong and they don't have their own determination. They don't have their own voice and vocabulary. They project to others that you're a student, that you're this is me. This is me. Matter of fact, let me make this clear. I am a member of the Coalition of Concerned Citizens of Hempstead. Sister Catherine Gary, a friend of mine, and a good sister, she's a white woman. And she is the editor-in-chief of the Freedom Press. And she is a member of the Coalition of Concerned Citizens of Hempstead. It's that simple. You know, you can't check the other ones like that because you'll find bullying. Other organizations in Hempstead, you'll find they're selling us out. But we are grassroots. Brother Bradley Hinton, myself, Terry Winston, Say Edwards, Catherine Gary, and Alicia Thompson, amongst others, actively working in Hempstead. We are solid. We support each other. And we support other organizations, grassroots organizations. Even I supported Garden City, opposing the Sands, and Hofstra, and the Uniondale, right behind me, Uniondale that way. I supported the Uniondale Tennis Association. The Civics Association. The Uniondale Civics Association. I support them. He didn't denounce Kevin Boone. He said, man, y'all never satisfied. He said, you're crying about underdevelopment. You're crying about gentrification. You're crying about the way the MDA is. And I said, no, we being displaced. We have been devitalized. It's racist. And you plan on gentrifying us to make it worse with 35 more pilots, tax breaks for wealthy apartment owners, just taking the money out the community that you cowards won't protect and put those resources towards us. Not only should you protect us, we should get a lawsuit of $1 billion from the town of Hempstead, Nassau County, and New York State for these tax breaks. Them tax breaks in Hempstead been going back to the 60s with Wilco, Martin Luther King Drive. The projects there, Martin Luther King Drive. Those been getting tax breaks since the 60s, since they were built. Hempstead homeowners been paying for that. And it's devastated us. And we should get compensation for that so that we can secure and get protection for home ownership through our civics association and our small businesses to establish a cultivation center to bring that back and then secure it through our civic associations. Hempstead had been so devitalized and displaced by Native Black American homeowners the last two decades. We had over 30 civic associations, tennis associations. It's down to 4. It's down to 4. That's how much we've been displaced. All of that is designed by the same planners. And you saw that bastard right over here. Let me turn the camera around to his headquarters over here. You see them shiny, remember the old EAB building there? Right there. You see that building? Right there. Those twin glass buildings, that is RXR. That's RXR. That's working with Renaissance. They gentrified Harlem, they gentrified Brooklyn, and they're coming for Hempstead. And right here. This is even worse. Do you know what 99 years, a century of you paying somebody else taxes, and then they're using that money claiming it's their money? How devastating that is to your home ownership. I noticed this about Native Black American homeowners. We really don't protect our homes until it's personal. If somebody systematically, things get just taken from us, and we take it, and we go and do something else, because we're in survival mode as laborers and consumers. And it's a lot of immigrants in Hempstead, in Uniondale around here, from Africa and the Caribbean. And they could care less about Native Black American generational wealth because they are from Ecuador, South America immigrants coming into Hempstead. They are for cheap labor. Now the African and Caribbean immigrants were brought in mainly as a replacement upper class of blacks. Now, I know some good brothers and sisters from Jamaica, especially Jamaica, and even Haiti. There's good, solid brothers and sisters. Their ride is with us. They support me. They support the Nation of Islam. They support what we're doing in Hempstead. You're good. You're the riders. You are those that's rocking with us. But those that are opportunists and that are social climbing over Native Black Americans, y'all need to be going somewhere else. Y'all need to be going to the white community of those who importing you into this nation. They even bringing in racist Eastern Indians from East India as a replacement professional class. They bringing in mainly Caribbean black, they select professional class immigrants for certain classes, and they even pay them. Now the common person that's just an opportunist that's coming back and forth here, you know, good for you. But those planners who are targeting displacement, 70% of immigrants into America are targeted for black communities. 70% of immigrants into America are targeted towards black communities. The white communities that import them don't accept them. We made proposals to send this affordable housing to Garden City. They've been rejected. They even had a court order for them to do it, and they refused. Now, from South America, like Guatemala, Honduras, coming into Hempstead, that's cheap labor. But they're very industrious. They come into the school system. And Hempstead is a sanctuary village, you know, unannounced. People do anything in Hempstead. They just take advantage of Hempstead. They economically rape Hempstead because we don't have gatekeepers and protectors. If you immigrate into Hempstead, you pay a tax. You come in here, you pay a tax. You don't come in here, you don't get financing. Look at Eric Adams, Mayor Eric Adams. He's a disgrace. Coming out with all these funds that they deny us reparations. They got all this funding, billions of dollars, millions of billions of dollars that come out of nowhere for funding undocumented illegal immigrants as cheap labor. Well, from Mexico and South America. From China, East India, those are professional class, the higher class, that they want filling up these apartments too, even in Hempstead. And even in the hospitals, the schools, the universities. A lot of those professors are from East India. East India is one of the poorest nations on the planet. East India, one of the poorest nations, one of the worst, one of the most racist nations too, behind America. America is the most racist country on the planet, and right behind them is East India, with their contempt for black people. And these planners select the anti-black ones to come in because they're replacing it. The replacement is for Native Black Americans, who they've been doing this 100 years. They've destroyed our all-black towns. Everything we build, they raze and destroy. They razed hundreds of all-black towns across this country the last century. The last century, they've taken 18 million acres of farmland from us, stolen. You see the problem with that? We can't compete. We can't compete with African and Caribbean immigrants. And some of them even have anti-blackness in them, especially anti-Native Black American. They do. They tell their children, stay away from them Black Americans. You know, you better than them. Don't you know, I interviewed an elder in Rockville Center, 92 years old. Elder brother Henry Dorsey. He's a Rockville Center legend. He was born in Rockville Center, I think in 1931. And he said when he first encountered West Indian immigrants coming into Rockville Center, he said they didn't like us. He said they stayed away from us. They delineated themselves from Native Black Americans in Rockville Center. He said, and they purpose, and they were bold about it. Now this is like in the 60s, because immigrants weren't coming here in the 50s. Why in the 50s we were suffering hell. We were being lynched in the 50s. It was still Jim Crow. It was still segregation. It was still hostilities towards us. It was incredible. Nobody was coming. Why? Because no one comes to help us. No one came to help us. One man came to help us, Master Fard Muhammad. All praise is due to Allah, the supreme Allah. No one came to help us. Everyone comes to help themselves. And the problem with that, why we are delineating today, Native Black Americans, we are delineating from other Black Americans or African Americans, is that we need to disaggregate too so that we can have accounting to see our advancement of what's being done to us negatively or positively. We can't do it. If some Caribbean, look at the woman in the White House, Karine Jean, whatever her name is, I think she's from Haiti. She haven't cracked her mouth open once to speak about the injustice and inequality in Hempstead, the devitalization and the gentrification. She supports it. But she don't give a shit about Native Black American people. She haven't cracked her mouth open once. But they count her as the first African American in the White House as a press secretary. That's an insult and a slap in the face that the Democrats always do to us. Democrats always hot spit in our face. The Democratic Party is the worst thing that happened to Native Black Americans.
So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. No.
6 decades you've been rolling with them, and you in this condition. You see how that works? Jean Pierre, I believe, who is the White House secretary, press secretary. She didn't have her town raised. She didn't get ran back to sharecropping. Her descendants didn't go through all the trials, tribulations that we went through. The Civil War was sparked, and the end of slavery was sparked because we started killing white people. We started killing our slave masters. My ancestors went around killing their slave masters. We were too much to handle. We were too much of a burden to keep subjugated like that. We burned their crops, burned their houses, poisoned their asses with poison, and put glass in their food. Go watch the movie Roots. You see a scene in there.
There is panic in the slave states. White protection units are formed to round up slaves for mass hangings.
Hey, George. You got any ideas about rising up and doing away with me and my missus? You come near the main house, I'd catch you with so much as a sharper nail on you. I'd blast you to kingdom come. Until then, you take all the cooking knives from this cabin and bring them to the main house. You do the same things George with fighting Spurs for the cops. You hear me? Master, get back. Get back or I'll splatter you to kingdom come.
Who's the old rifleman? I forgot his name. He was playing a slave master, and his son was Chicken George. His mulatto son, the son of Kizzy, his slave. Mulatto Chicken George was his slave, and he didn't even free him. He said, when George went to go get his freedom to pay for it, he said, George, I can't let you go. You my nigger. That's his son that he kept in bondage. Well, he busted in the cabin, Slave Row, and he said, and with a shotgun, when we started killing white people about that time, we had like 200 massive slave revolts since chattel slavery, since the 1500s. It's been 200 massive ones. But in the mid-1800s, we was raising hell. You see them busting the door, a lot of them. They got scared. They said they're outnumbering us in the South. So they had to change the system. And Abraham Lincoln did not fight to end slavery. The Civil War was about a union, because it wasn't until the great general Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson, the two great generals, after they had major victories, right before Gettysburg, that Abraham Lincoln saw that Europe was starting to recognize the Confederacy. Lincoln had actually called Robert E. Lee to lead the Union Army. He rejected it. He was the prefect at West Point. West Point split in half. Robert E. Lee said, I'm going with my state, Virginia. And that was the essence of the Civil War. And he went looking for contracts, for mercantile, for us to keep us in slavery, with the cotton, with the mercantile, and all that shipping and financing for arms from the North, from Europe, through the bankers in the East Coast, especially New York, who were financing slavery, insuring slaves. That's where life insurance comes from, them insuring us. Sometimes they would scuttle slave ships and kill us on purpose to get insurance payments. The diabolical Caucasians of this nation. Yes, they did that. So you see, we started killing the slave masters. So then Abraham Lincoln saw that Europe was recognizing the Confederacy. So then he said, well, this is the end of slavery. And he knew that Europe couldn't defend slavery because they would condemn slavery because they didn't want more black people taken into Europe because they were planning on colonizing Africa. So they need all the black people there. They said, we're going to exploit them there. We don't want them in Europe anymore. But America is this man is insane. The Caucasian rules over America. He's just a demon. He just lusts for souls, to destroy your souls. And that's what sparked the Civil War. And Abraham Lincoln even admitted he wouldn't have won, the North wouldn't have won without black soldiers in the Union Army. That's the history. That was the hell we went through. Jim Crow, being lynched, the Ku Klux Klan, John D. Rockefeller putting together this racist miseducation system to create a rich class and a poor class in 1902. And then racist President Woodrow Wilson stepping it up. He re-emerged the Ku Klux Klan. He screamed Birth of a Nation, W.D. Griffin's racist Ku Klux Klan propaganda movie in the White House. President Woodrow Wilson, a no-good racist, screamed Birth of a Nation in the White House. He fired all the black federal employees. And he began that campaign of raising an all-black towns. You see, Jean Pierre, the Haitian immigrant press secretary, doesn't have that experience of being lynched and surviving that trauma. So we fought up out of that for what? The civil rights. And after the Civil Rights Act, then other immigrants in bulk came. There were some immigrants, a little, not from Africa. Most of them immigrants were from the Caribbean. Because Jamaican, in the 1900s, it was Jamaican field workers. They would come and pick crops in the South. And immigration didn't come into New York really until like the 60s. But in the 50s, any black immigrants from the West Indians, from West India, they can go into white areas. And Brother Elder Henry Dorsey said those West Indians bought houses in white areas of Rockville Center that mainly black people couldn't. Because he gives an instance, one of his friends bought a house close to the white area, and the Ku Klux Klan burnt the cross on their lawn. That's our experience. Long Island had slavery. And then in the 50s, they imported our people. Yeah, in the 40s and the 50s, the 40s and 50s, white farmers out in Suffolk County imported our people on tractor trailers and stuff to go pick potatoes out in the farms because we were cheap labor. We were the most industrious people on the planet. We worked from sun up to sundown. And in turn, built America into a premier world superpower. And what did we get in return for that? The worst treatment that any other people have on this planet. So the other immigrants don't have the experience. And our struggle of all these benefits that from the Civil Rights Bill was for remedying what we went through, not immigrants to come in as an employment agency. Social climbing over Native Black Americans, getting in these positions, saying, look, I'm the first black, I'm the first this, the first black this, the first stat, the first African, the first female. and then counting that as all black America or all African Americans. We delineating. We are delineating and we are disaggregating so we can have an accounting for that. That's why that must be done. So, in light of all this injustice, Hempstead is wide open, unprotected, ain't had a champion and a gatekeeper as mayor in Hempstead since its inception. No one has stood up to protect us. They only protect their own self-interest. That's a fact. All right, well, let me go into some of the comments here. Okay, Sister Olivia Smile lived 2 exits from 58. Yeah, that's Jake's 58, that's right. Time to see how it looked. Can't afford to lose money enough. It's not good for Hempstead. That's right. Yeah, you know how it is, sister. All right. My brother Shabazz, that's a fact. That's right. Peace, God. We are. Indeed. It says we want you in office. That's right. All praise due to Allah. We got to get it done, brother. All over the country, nobody's protecting us. We are only champions. Vanessa Brown says the money should be used to help people in need. That's right. All of this money, and this is our property tax. This is taxes, school taxes that we're paying, and they're using it against us. That's a hell of a thing. We got to change this. All right, I'm winding down now. I hope your Saturday as well. Yeah, it's cloudy out. It's starting to get cool. At least the wind calmed down a little. It's very windy out here. I'm looking, and actually, my vision for Hempstead is for it to be a black Mecca. The problem with Native Black Americans, when I say Native Black American, foundational Black American, ADOS, that's the black people who have been in America for thousands and thousands of years, with the Native Indian, and during chattel slavery, the whites imported enslaved Africans into chattel slavery. And the Native black people and the imported enslaved Africans were integrated together. We were all integrated together. So we mixed like that. We became the one people. A lot of black people are unaware that there were we peopled the Western Hemisphere. Black people peopled the Western Hemisphere. That means we were the first ones here, thousands of years ago. The oldest skeleton in the Western Hemisphere is a black woman. And they call her Lucia, after Richard Leakey's discovery in Ethiopia of Lucy, the millions-of-year-old skeleton, the oldest female skeleton. Well, the oldest female skeleton in the Western Hemisphere, thus far, they're older ones, is a black woman. And her skeletal remains are in a museum in Brazil. And you know what the white supremacists have done down in Brazil? The same thing they've done in Egypt and all around the black world. They burned down that museum. And luckily, her remains survived. Her name is Lucia. Study that. That's original people. We came from Polynesia. We came from like Easter Island. We came from the Bering Strait. We sailed over. The Moors were over here. The Olmecs. We brought pyramid building here. The hieroglyphs. That's the Olmecs. That's the black man from the East. Ramses III of the powerful 18th dynasty that brought about Black Power Revolution, running out the Hyksos. That was Seti. That was Amos. That was Kamos. They ran out the whites out of Egypt for all their evil and undermining they were doing there. Ramses III sailed here with hundreds of ships. And he is the father of ancient America. Ramses III is the father of ancient America. A brother wrote a book about that. I read a long time ago. We always knew that. But white people hide history. White people are very ashamed of what they did. And they hide the value of black people. They know that we are valuable, that we are the fathers of the universe. We are the fathers of civilization, the mothers of mankind. We are all the original people, all the greatness in this world. It's us. We are descendants of that. And we're proud of that. And he hates that. He destroys it. He obliterates that in history. Whenever he finds a statue or hieroglyph, he chips away at it. He's the only man that does that. No one else does that on the planet. If you find a pharaoh, Pharaoh Thutmose III, he didn't like his sister, Hatshepsut. She was a powerful, she ruled the world. Hatshepsut ruled the world, a black woman that ruled the world. There was a few black women that ruled the world. Sheba, Hatshepsut, Queen Candace. Well, Queen Candace was constrained. She didn't go up into Europe, but there's a few black women who ruled the world. Did you know that? He hides. So, Thutmose III, he didn't like his sister. So you see this pole behind me? He took her bliss and he covered it up because he wanted to write her out of history. Now that's a brother who hates his sister. So he was a conqueror. He ruled the world before her. And she came, so he didn't like what she did because she was a pharaoh. She was a female who became a pharaoh. She's the first one to do that. So he built stonework around her bliss, hiding it, and which later on, which actually preserved it in a beautiful state. But see, he did it for a reason. He hated his sister. But the white man, when he sees a black statue of ancient greatness, it evokes something in him. He chips away at it and he don't even know why. Why do you think those Olmec heads in Mexico survived? Because the jungle hit them. They had Europeans murdered so many native black people and native indigenous people, so-called Indian, Mongolians, a few people over here in the East. We mixed together too. We didn't have all those mass killings. You don't find mass graves of ancient people. It's when Caucasians came. The European 500 years ago, he killed 100 million original people in the Western Hemisphere. The earth got cold. That's how evil he is. That's how much of a murderer he is. In the Amazon alone, with them 12 black kings in that civilization, the Amazon River, we have civilizations along there. 20 to 30 million people of those 12 black kings that rule those nations. 20 to 30 million people eliminated smallpox. He claims it was inadvertently. No, it was purpose. Look at all them sacrifices of the Mayans and the Aztecs. Them sacrifices was like, maybe a dozen a year. They were doing it, okay? That's a hell of a society. You sacrificed to somebody. But it was done, But who came along and accelerated it? When the white man came along, he said, I want more blood. He said, I'm representing Takakashu, whoever that mean god was, that with blood. He wanted hearts and blood, and they were cutting them out. 80,000 a year. No way the Incas and the Mayans were doing that for hundreds of years and could sustain those populations. It's when the white man came that in his bizarro world and his lust that he did that. He killed so many people, the earth became colder. That's his introduction to the Western Hemisphere, whom he was guided by the Moors. The Moors who was selling back and forth over here. That gold-tipped spears. Our people in the west coast of Africa. That's where all the gold was at. And some over here, but most was over there. We traded. We had minor clashes. Dr. Ivan Van Sertima speaks to that. He said, they had conflicts, but they were conflicts. Little, you not know mass grave, you find no mass grave. When the Caucasian comes, he didn't even make mass graves. He let the jungle swallow him up. The jungle swallowed up all that civilization. That's why he preserved it. And in 1865, the year of emancipation, that's when the first Olmec head was revealed. Scared the shit out of him. He said, man, the black god just showing up everywhere. We thought he left them. They decimated us. That's their nature. We have to teach that. We have to take control of the curriculum. The education we have is a John D. Rockefeller, a wealthy oligarch, a wealthy corporatist, Standard Oil. I had a Hempstead School Board member tell me he was a smart man for doing this wicked, evil shit. Yes, your Hempstead School Board member told me that this John D. Rockefeller education that's miseducating us, making us smart enough just to be useful, but reserving private schooling and cultivation for the elite class, right there in Garden City, North Hill. Those private educations, they teach better, but they purposely aim us low and make us just smart enough to work, to be efficient laborers, non-complaining laborers. We got to change this around. We can do it. It's going to get done. It's gonna get done, and we're gonna do it. All right, family, that's it for now. It's starting to get chilly. You see any more comments? And I appreciate your comments. I appreciate all your support. Now the next mission is to get out for the IDA board meeting. Let's stop this monstrosity. This affects us, Uniondale homeowners. Why do you think they tricked you into making this Uniondale? This used to be the hamlet of East Garden City. They wanted you to pay the goddamn property taxes. We are so slow civically. We don't understand what's going on. Hofstra don't pay taxes. Hofstra don't do nothing in Hempstead. All right? For Hempstead. But we can change it. And when the IDA board meeting comes up, stay informed. Let's go and represent. Write your legislative representatives. There are 18 of them. Let them know. No, 17 voted. 17 voted. Write them. Let them know the correct is wrong. Show up at the IDA board meeting. Let's show up and show out. We got to go towards their gambling license. Because without tax breaks and that gambling license, they can't do it. They won't do it. Because they don't care about us. They only care about making a few people richer. The house always wins. Ain't that right? The house always wins. And they're not improving our condition. They're improving the elite's condition. And they're creating a bigger poor class. And they want this to be a party center for a sick elite. Look how many homeless people are in this country. It's getting worse. And they purposely jacked up inflation. You know what inflation is? CEOs taking higher pay and giving their lower end payers less pay. They're concentrating all the wealth in their hands. And Reaganomics trickle down economics.
The real problem is not inflation. The real problem is the increase in corporate power and the decline in worker power over the past 40 years. Unless we address this growing imbalance, corporations will continue siphoning off the economy's gains into their CEOs' and shareholders' pockets, while everyday Americans get shafted.
And we must stand up for it. And I'm with you, and I stand up for all of us and our righteousness, as long as it's for righteous deeds. You know, we get it done. And other than that, you know, I hope everything is well. It's still a little hazy, though. This is like the aftermath. I did notice that when I first came out here, that the Hofstra apartment towers had a little haze in front of it, but everything is good. All right, y'all, I thank you for joining me. And once again, remember, come to the IDA board meeting, stay informed, and be vigilant. Let's get more together. You heard me speak on immigrants coming in from Africa and the Caribbean and stuff. We are one people, but the relationship got to change. Caucasians have you here for a different motive. And you have to announce that motive, because a lot of people opposing Native Black American reparation, delineation claims are immigrants. Black immigrants are speaking against us. That's a hell of a kick to the nuts, man. For you to immigrate to somebody else's country, you leave your own country a failure, the country suffering. You come from here, and then you talk about us. And then you work against us. That's a hell of a thing. Now, you common African and West Indian and Caribbean immigrants, you have to speak against that. You have to be the voice. And if you are not the voice, we have to speak against it. We call out our sellouts. Clarence Thomas, Candace Owens, he's an immigrant. All our Uncle Toms, sellout buck dancers. We've been calling them out since the beginning of our sojourn in America. Ever since we built America. All our sellouts, Uncle, do we even have terms for it? Uncle Tom, Uncle Ruckus, Oreo, and all types of stuff we call people who betray us. You don't get our trust and use it against us. Even though people may not be sophisticated enough to understand, you have to be the voice of the voiceless. You have to be strong for those who are frightened and who fear a system of white supremacy. That's the only way justice is coming Justice will only come to us when we remove this wicked system of American white supremacy. It is unjust, it is unfair. And we are at the bottom of it on purpose. And they plan on us being a permanent underclass. As long as they're in power, we change it. Join me. All right, family, I'll leave you as I greeted you in the ancient Arabic words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. Peace unto you. Enjoy the rest of the evening. As windy as it is, it's still nice though. Peace and grace.